Hello, hello, hello. How we doing today? It is Monday, September 11th. Good to have you here on the stream. Today we are talking about the silent struggle of anxiety. I thought that might be a good one to do, just to uncover things and come together as a group. And there's going to be episode 867. I totally forgot to edit Friday's episode, so I almost made this episode 866, but it's not. That was last week. That was Friday, the Q&A, which I hope you enjoyed. I didn't test this, we'll see. No. Always be testing. Always be testing before you go live. That one worked. Who have we got? I did see there was a couple of pre-chats, but it didn't show up on my system, and now my the comments are buried a little bit. So, is it Yazin? Yazin? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. We've got Tanya as well saying hello, hello. We've got Ruby here as well. Welcome back, my friend. It's been a while, right? Thank you so much for your kind words. Welcome back again as well. Having been on the Friday Q&A, I remember. That's all good, Tree. If you're busy. And that was to Tanya saying, hope the trip went amazing. We've got Diane here as well. Welcome, you superstar. Great to have you here. We have Mina here as well. We have the Grim. Hello, hello, hello. That's one extra hello than usual. Usually it's just hello, hello. So I have to call you the Grim. Hey, Rosella, great to have you here. Welcome back, as always. All the way on YouTube, sorry. I was looking at the next one. Good evening to you, Luca. Welcome back. Hey, Cheryl, great to have you here as well. Welcome back too. Oh my goodness. Well, it is late where you are. It is late where you are. Making up for lost hellos. Well, that makes more sense. But that means you still got to be the Grim. Has to be done. I looked today, but you weren't live today. Why weren't you going live today? My fan is making my hair move. And this light, it's a real overcast day in San Diego. We had a very 5-minute bit of rain, but it was 85 degrees, so I might have to have some artificial light. Let's see. We'll try that. Let's look at the second view. I don't like this camera. We need to upgrade this camera. Busy. Well, that's okay. That's okay. Busy is good. Hey, Nancy, great to have you here all the way from Canada. Hope you are well. So there we go. I managed to get out for a nice... It wasn't 4 miles. It wasn't 4 miles. It was 3 point something miles. 3.89 miles. But it was a good little start for the week. I need to up my running game. I do. I'm pleased to hear it. I hope you all had a good weekend. I did take Sunday mostly off, but I did work mostly Saturday. The Grim, he won't block you. He has the power. But he wouldn't do that. How is Mr. C and Sebastian? Well, Mr. C was just here. I heard him. So, yeah, he's all good and great, other than, like I said, it's overcast, so he's not been in the sun. It was overcast yesterday, so he didn't have sun then. Sebastian's doing pretty good though. He's not here with me right now, but I've got him on, I think, Friday. I think I have him Friday. If you don't know, if you're wondering, why does he only have his dog sometimes? Well, I pet share. I'm a pet share parent. But I do get pictures and photos most of the time, just to see that he's doing good. And videos. Well, I can't really show you that because then we show all the messages too, and numbers and things. But thank you for asking. Misty rain here tonight, trying to stay away. Stay away from Lee? Who's Lee? Yeah, I wanted more rain. If it's going to be gloomy, I want it to at least rain. Co-parent. That's what I am. I'm a co-parent. I know. I would have seen you. But it's okay. The replay went out. You get the watch it. I think people really liked it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is all my main program. We have like group coaching calls together. We come together. Oh, Lee is a hurricane. I do, but I only downloaded it so I could monitor the app when there was meant to be one near me. But other than that, I haven't looked at any news for last week or so. This one? That's like the Caribbean area. Is that the one we're talking about? It doesn't give me names. So yeah, be safe. Always reach out. Reach out if you haven't got it. I'll get it. I'm so pleased you enjoyed the Create Your Day on gratitude. That's not going to happen. Also from this one. So there we go. we will get on with it shortly. We're only 10 minutes in. We usually start in a few moments. Or a few moments, like 20 past usually these days. But I hope you had a good weekend. And your behavior, yeah, Mina's one you need to watch out for as well. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Sorry to hear a little bit drowsy. I feel a little bit this. I don't know about if it's just me. Oh no, it's like the vitamin D. But when it's gloomy, I definitely feel more, or feel less energy. Always chatting. I just don't always bring your chats on the screen. But it's okay to chat, as long as it's all nice and wonderful and fun. Say hello to everyone. This is going live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, Kick, I think. I don't even know. I don't even know about that one. Yes, I'm live on Kick as well. I just saw. But if you're on Kick, the comments don't come through to me. Yeah, maybe a power nap. I had the weirdest sleep. Not the weirdest. A crazy sleep last night. Early morning. It was like, I woke up at 4:44. 4 minutes. 4 a.m. and 44 minutes. And then I had weird nightmarish dreams. I don't know why. A bit of paralysis I had as well. That was fun. But I haven't had paralysis for a few months. So it's been raining for a month here and there. Oh, sorry, here and there. Here, very hard on the moons, yeah. And I grew up in rain, or a lot of kind of rainier weather in England, but that's probably why I'm in San Diego. I even went to Thailand at Christmas time when I was living in England to get away from it. Were you visiting the Grim View? I wasn't. Not late last night. But I don't know if you were here, Grim, when we discussed this. I also listen. I mean, Grim View's great. It is amazing. Feel free to explain why it's so amazing. But I listen to like Art Bell reruns as I go to sleep sometimes, so that might not help. Well, they're usually for napping, to be honest. Yeah. That bloomin' retrograde. Yeah, so I listen to a lot of Art Bell. They've released a lot on Spotify and on the Apple podcast of all the old classics. I listened to him when I was in England, but I do not know why or how, because it wasn't a thing that other people knew about. Well, I'm so pleased to hear about the podcast space happening as well. And thank you, Cheryl, for this kind super chat. That's so kind of you. 20 Australian dollars. We get one of those for supporting the show. Thank you, so kind. You don't have to do so. I appreciate it. But always know you've supported the channel in the last month or so much. So thank you ever so much. Very, very kind. There we go. Yeah, coast to coast. What is Grimview? It's a creepy story channel he's creating. What causes my paralysis? I don't know. But what I will tell you, well, sometimes if I'm really fatigued, if I'm very, very fatigued, then I don't think my body just wants to wake up, but my mind's alert. If you don't know what paralysis is, it's when you wake up in the night and you can't move your body, and you feel like you're paralyzed and you can't move. And it's very, very scary. I've learned to embrace, but sometimes it has some kind of negative hallucinational stuff, or visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So that's one. But sometimes, like I did yesterday, I have a weird little feeling that's going to happen, and then it happens. Nice. One day I'm going to go to Australia. Oh, I know who Whitney Cummings is. That's all good. That is all good. I'm just catching up the comments. Not the shadow people. This is going to be a self-development podcast. Not the weird and wonderful, interesting things. Oh, good. Yeah, I experience paralysis every so often. But, hey, great to have you finally on the stream. Great to have you here. Saying, thanks, Joseph, for your amazing work. Everybody agrees that Joseph should create a broadcast channel from messages he shares on Instagram. I do. Thank you for that suggestion. I have been very, very lame on my note-taking in the evening. I need to do more. I think I just went on a flurry of like doing 4 an evening. Enough ones sharing too many. But yes, I will get to it, and I will do that with all the little things, because they're all in my phone still. They're in my phone. I've got lots of notes in my phone. Some I haven't even shared as well. They're like formulations of ideas. So, thank you so much. Yeah, it's all good. I've learned to embrace it at times when I can, because sometimes that sounds like the movie, right? Inception. That was a great movie, wasn't it? That music, I love the background, because the music's done by Hans Zimmer, who did like the Gladiator music and all these other cool ones. Okay. Whew. Yeah. It is all about the positivity, but I brought it up, didn't I? No, he was just mentioning some people with paralysis may see things like that. There we go. I'll have to look into it. I don't think it can be pinned. So if you don't know what we're talking about here, I got another 2 live streams simultaneously all going right now, or 3 technically with this one. And there's a positivity one, and I don't think you can pin things. Like if you go to, like if I go to my YouTube, it's there for me because it's my channel. See, look. It's pinned for me. But there's me. I'm live. Look. I'm just gonna keep doing that. You're a good dream. There's questions, just create answers. Sorry that. Sometimes my camera takes down a comment. Well, hopefully this one will help. And Wednesday, we're doing a live hypnosis on anxiety. And if you are also a part of the app, you'll get the bonus sleep version in the, oh my goodness, in the app. This thing. So watch out for that one. Love to you as well, my friend. You will catch the replay. Get on to that good, great work. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's possible. I don't think a user of, like, the channel person can do that. Hey, my friend, great to have you here on the live stream, you superstar. I'll bring this one up first. Ever had a dream you wake up from, go back to sleep, and the dream continues? Yes, I have. If it's a good dream, I'd put the intention to. Yeah, that's easy to be able to do the capitals. Do I think, hey, my friend superstar as well. I've got your present still over there, which you were very kind to send. It is different for sure, but it's just felt differently, and it can come up in different times. It can come up together. Fear can give us anxiety, anxiety can give us fear, but I would separate them, but they come from the same essence. That's what I would say. So they are different, but they have different triggers, and we can discuss some of that as well. Once again, great to have you here. Always a pleasure. Gloomy in Vancouver, Canada. Same, my friend. I don't understand how I know people in my dreams who are complete strangers. Why would the mind create strangers in the dream? I'll tell you one reason why, because we've got to get going soon, because I said we'll start a little bit earlier. It's 24 minutes past the hour. To me, dreams are metaphors and analogies. So sometimes it will create something to have meaning. So it could create a character, a person who, how it finds it is probably from all the data of all the people you're seeing, like almost like your brain's an AI generating machine, you know, like AI generating picture machine, which Grimm will know a lot about because he does a lot of AI generation as well for all his works. But I think the unconscious mind just kind of collects information into a character, and sometimes if it's relevant, that character will be able to bring a message unconsciously to try to resolve. That's what I think dreams. Some dreams are just dreams, but it's our unconscious mind going through stuff to resolve, in my opinion. If we're talking about anxiety and fear, yeah, they both exist together, but not all the time. Or at least predominantly someone could be like more anxious. So there could be little leads and follows. Yeah, the subconscious doing stuff. Hey Michelle, great to have you here. That's all good. We haven't quite started yet. And Judith too. Welcome back. It's been a while, Judith. Where have you been? Do you know if it's a recording for standardized testing or for college application process? I haven't done a track for that. I have done interview nerves, and I've also got a learning and revision one. And also I've got public speaking one, if there's like, you gotta be interviewed public speaking wise. But go to josephclough.info/ABC and just summarize it so I have an idea and I can research and think about getting it created. How do you define or categorize anxiety? Great question. Well, everyone experiences things from a different degree. Like your worst is your worst. Your greatest is your greatest. As in your experiences. So if it's like a real bad experience for you, someone could have a worse experience, but it's still your worst experience. So we'll all experience it subjectively, but I think the way I define, let's take it like a phobia. Phobia is an irrational fear. Now, anxiety is like a lower level of that, of an irrational fear, because sometimes it can be realistic, but it's overwhelming and it's very generalizing and distorting. So, but defining it, to me, is like the unconscious mind is trying to prepare us for all the things that could happen, to try to keep us safe. But my preference is to get someone from anxiety into what's the word? Also beginning with A. Anticipation. I think anxiety is anticipation gone wrong, because we're over anticipating, which can be rooted to beliefs and things, as we know. But the goal there is to get to anticipation, in my opinion. Could be. I mean, it could definitely be. I think it could be other things which we'll discuss in the call, that was Saturday, the stream today. So we'll get into that. So last few more comments and then we'll get into it. And that's all good. You make it when you can make it, so that's all good. And you get the replayers. Maybe, at least maybe in the intentions or the characters, what's their development. Is anxiety always bad? For example, I'm seeing a chiropractor tomorrow. First point, I'm in a way looking forward to it because I'm hopeful he can help me, but I'm also anxious about it. I just think anxiety has its good things, right? Like fear has some good things to it, because it does fulfill something. I just think there's better ways. Like I said, anticipation might be a better way. So, do I need to be anxious sometime if I'm walking down a dark street? Maybe, right? Like if it's late at night and so on. So it's there for a reason, but there's also, it's a secondary protection mechanism, because the primary protection mechanism is the fight and flight, which is wired into our neurology, and anxiety is more of a something that we've created over time throughout history of our biological beings. So it has its uses. I just think there's better states that would be more appropriate, if that makes sense. But with that, let's get into the show, because we can always carry on the chat afterwards as well, but I want to be respectful for those who are tuning in. And that is not a suggestion, but you need to be quiet on these pre-streams. Keep them coming in, and I'll just start when we need to kind of start, and then we can get back to them. So that comment was like, not saying you're too chatty. I love you chatting. And we can get back to the chat. So there's going to be episode 867. I'm going to turn the music down right here for a little bit, and then we'll get it to it. Are you ready? Are you good to go? Because I am. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 867. Now, in today's episode, we're talking about the silent struggle, all around anxiety, all around trying to unmask it. Because if we think of what anxiety can be, we kind of hide away. We try to go into our comfort zone. We play small, and I want us to try to break through that. And something very quickly I looked as we were like, there's a live stream for those listening on the podcast. I do a little countdown. I just had a quick look up, and I saw the 275 million people in North America experience anxiety, which is such a huge level of an experience that we're having. And it is also very silent. I know that it's very over out there, like we know what anxiety is. We see adverts about medications for anxiety. There's podcasts like mine about anxiety and the imposter syndrome. Like there's loads of health books, self-help books, courses, programs, therapists, practitioners. But when I say like the silent struggle, it's not because there's not enough help out there. It's more that we suffer in silence. We tend to keep this locked up to ourselves. And even if you do experience and express it to people, we don't always feel like people understand what it's like to be anxious, which makes it a silent struggle. Like it's our own journey and our own relationship to anxiety that tends to make it that silence. Like we just don't feel good. Sometimes we can even feel broken, unfixable. Like this is just who we are. So then we therefore suffer in silence. We think that is our identity. But the reason why I brought up the 275 million people in North America, and I don't know what year that was, by the way, it's literally a quick search. I'm sure it's probably more, and also because it is a silent struggle, not everyone expresses what they're going through. The reason why I bring that up is because we're not alone. Like, we can start to bridge the gap that there are people out there just like us. And I say like us, I've overcome my anxiety. I honestly, genuinely have. I experienced it in a very significant, heavy way for the first 18 years of my life, where I used to wake up with dread, go to sleep with dread. I used to feel fear, worry, I used to blush. I used to have limiting thoughts and beliefs which caused my health, relationships, my school, and all that stuff to not be at the level that I wanted it to be. But I definitely felt alone growing up. I felt like this is just who I am, and that would never change. But the fact that I have overcome it, like I said, genuinely, I don't feel anxiety. I feel anticipation for things, because we've got to understand what anxiety is trying to do, which we'll get to. And there are better states of mind that are going to be more powerful to fulfill what it's trying to do. But the notion of just going, okay, I feel anxiety and I struggle with anxiety and I suffer in silence. We have to wake up together and go, I don't have to suffer in silence. And a bit of a disclaimer here today, I don't intend, well, I kind of do. I might be pushing some of your buttons today. It might cause you to challenge yourself. It might cause you to look in the mirror to wake up to a reality which can be different, and also your present reality. And I don't apologize for that, because I think if we just downplay it and just go, it's going to be okay, and do nothing, that's me not serving you. Like, if I had that experience growing up all the time, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, because I'd still be suffering with anxiety. So be at peace with being challenged. Be at peace to see a different model of the world, to see something different within you. Because number one, which pushes up against our values sometimes, and I could speak about this one subject all day. Like, I could do a whole training seminar on it, which is the assumption of responsibility. You see, I can't make you change. You've got to do the work, right? No one else in your life can make your anxiety disappear if we don't wake up to that responsibility. No one can get inside our mind, just flick off the switch, if we're not willing to be open to change. And then one of the reasons where we feel like we aren't open to change is because we feel unfixable. We feel broken. So therefore, within itself, we sabotage. But if we are going to make a change, we have to decide over fear and decide on what is right. So even though you're experiencing anxiety right now, I want you to know that's not who you are, number one. It is something that you're going through, and you will get through if we assume the responsibility. But anxiety is a strategy. It's something that we've been running maybe for decades. But it's still a strategy. And if it is a strategy, it means you cannot be broken. You cannot be unfixable. Because it is simply something that the body has learned to run over and over again. But if you are going to change today, tomorrow, next week, and the next few weeks, depending how long you need to be able to work through that, what vehicle you go through in trying to let go of the anxiety. Because like I said, there's many people out there who want to help you. We have to wake up and go, if I'm going to change, I need to change. I need to be a different person from who I already am. And that's a weird statement in itself. I've got to be a different person in order to change who I am. And the reason why I say that is the same thing we've always been doing hasn't quite worked out. So that's where the assumption of responsibility, like Viktor Frankl said, when you're unable to change your situation, you are challenged to change yourself. So if we're going to challenge ourselves, we have to look in the mirror and go, this is where I take back the control. I don't know what happened in our past, and bad things could have happened. People can be very mean and abusive and hurtful, but we cannot allow those people, our past, to dictate who we're going to be today. I think we've got to just kind of take a stand to do what is right. We have to assume that responsibility that actually I deserve to be free. Even if you don't know how, forget about the how right now. We have to know the why. When you know the why, you've got to change the importance. I like to think the how will present itself, but we can't find the how if we don't know why we want to change, or the responsibility of transformation. We have to assume that responsibility for ourselves. Whether that anxiety goes into our income or our abundance or our relationship or our career or our health, we have to be rather an effect of the anxiety, rather have excuses as to why we are. And that's where I can push up upon us, because you're like, what do you mean I've giving into the excuses of staying the same? Well, when we have reasons, it lets us off the hook. It pushes everything outside of ourselves. And if we push everything outside of ourselves, or if we have blame for people, how are we ever meant to change together? Like, it's pretty impossible, because we're giving the power away to those people or to the past significant emotional events. That is where we have to stop. We have to stop that. We have to get back in the driving seat. You see, you have your conscious mind and your unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is going to be the one running the anxiety and the fear and the doubts and the worries and all those things. But it's going to keep on running them if we don't get back in the driving seat. I always like the terms someone said, is like, who's driving the bus? And it really just means, like, are you the driver? Or are you allowing other people, other things, other events, or your unconscious mind to run the experiences that you're going through? That's where we got to get on the cause side of the equation. And like I said, remember, we're not broken, we're not unfixable. It is a strategy. You see, if I can let go of my anxiety, then you can too. If I've helped people let go of their anxiety, you can too. If other people in the world has overcome anxiety, even if it was just one person who's overcome anxiety, which of course there are millions who have. But if you know there was just one, it still means you can too. You're not so different. You may have gone through big events, but I'm going to pretty much put it out there for most of us, if not all of us on this. Someone who's overcome anxiety has most probably gone through worse, yet still overcame it. Now, we could have gone through some horrible things. I didn't go through many horrible things growing up, but it was still real to me, the anxiety. I'd never felt good enough and worthy and all those things. But I've worked with people who have gone through some horrendous things. But they still managed to assume the responsibility to reach out and make that change. So there are people out there, which means that is evidence. You see, when we're anxious, we tend to seek out evidence to prove the reason why we're anxious. That's how the brain works. The brain works is to seek out evidence as to the most predominant thought that you have. In other words, if you're anxious about failing, your unconscious mind will seek out all the evidence as to how you can fail, where it could happen, how someone could react. That's what anxiety does. I sometimes say it's like a superhero leaping and bounding at every possible scenario. It's still trying to protect, but it's trying to seek out the evidence as to why you are anxious. It is the opposite of what I would say anticipation is. You see, my goal for you, because you may think, well, anxiety does try to protect us, which is true. Well, what does anticipation do? Anticipation is still being aware of what could happen, but you're coming from a place of power, preparation, self-certainty. So if you're worried that, if anxiety disappears, I'm going to be unsafe. No, anticipation is where we need to be, the resourceful you, the you which is powerful within the challenge, even in the stress, where you get to decide that you are more than you could ever imagine. That whatever you think you are always more. That there's always something to learn and to grow from this. In order to conquer anxiety, we have to really conquer the causes of anxiety. You see, one of the problems with my industry is, and it's not trying to throw shade at other people or the whole industry at all. It's not my intention. I know so many great practitioners out there. I know so many people who even recommend my work to their patients and their clients. I know there are so many good people out there. But one of the problems is sometimes, maybe the few or the most, I'm not quite sure, I haven't worked or spoken to every practitioner of change in the world, but many tend to focus on the symptom itself. Now, when I discovered I could get results very quickly, it was down to finding the cause of the thing. You see, if a client walks through the door to a doctor's office, a good doctor is not going to just treat the presenting symptoms. They're not going to do that. They're going to take a deep dive. They're going to go into those symptoms to figure out what the real issue is. Wouldn't you be horrified if you went to a doctor and you gave them all the symptoms, and let's say you got 10 of them, like I got a headache, sore throat, stomach ache, aches, pain, fever, shiver, all those types of things, and they gave you one pill for this, one pill for that, one pill for another. Before you know it, you got like 10 pills you got to take for the rest of your life just to maintain a hopeful balance of getting out of that pain, that physical ailment that we're experiencing. A good doctor would go ahead and find the root cause of that, which we'll dive deeper a little bit sooner as well. So realize that anxiety is usually a byproduct of something. In most cases, even generalized anxiety. So even though it's very general to everything, we can still isolate it to something else where there is a cause behind it. So if you think of, for example, confidence is a state. Peace is a state of mind. Fear is a state, an emotional state. All of those are feelings and emotions, in other words. Well, emotions don't just appear in our body. They are triggered by something. Something within us has to respond to something external or something imagined in our mind, which then triggers this strategy, remember I said that in the beginning, of anxiety. And we can lump in fear in there and worries and doubts. I'm just saying anxiety for this moment. But it's an internal and external sequence of events that happens that creates this feeling, which means there's something that happened before the anxiety happened. So as a consequence. Now, some of the things which could happen, which creates anxiety or the imposter syndrome or the fear or the doubts, are things like the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of success. And a big one in this day and age, because it is a silent struggle, the fear of getting help, which we'll get into soon, all of those. But if I fear failure, of course I'm going to be anxious. If I fear success, I'm going to be anxious. If I fear rejection, I'm going to get anxious. If I have the imposter syndrome because I don't feel like I'm enough or worthy or deserving, I'm going to feel anxiety. So remember, anxiety is usually a byproduct of something, but it's the lead in to our conversation because you may feel anxiety the most. And that goes back to that little bit of a problem of only treating the symptom with some practitioners. Like, I'm not saying everyone, but some practitioners will treat that because the client feels the anxiety most of the time. That's the most predominant feeling that they feel, the most predominant symptom that they feel. But for example, going back to the doctor's equation, just because the patient feels pain, you don't just give medication for pain. You might want to fix the bone which is broken or whatever the cause is, right? The pain leads us to the diagnosis. The symptom leads us to the diagnosis. So whenever I work with people, I like to have that doctor frame and have that in your mind too. That anxiety is going to lead you to that. And I can't tell you what that is, because everyone is unique and different in what their causes are, and it could be based on their past experiences, but mainly it's based on their interpretation of that, which formulates these beliefs, these identity conflicts, which I'll be talking about in a couple of episodes away from now. And by the way, the next episode is going to be one on anxiety to hopefully address some of these issues. It's going to be generalized for everyone because I can't be there with you in person and work with you uniquely or create you something custom on the podcast and the app and so on. But it's going to actually help move through some of these things, or at least have some epiphanies and awakenings and really manage things. But like I said, some of the main, I'd say 4 bigger causes of anxiety is things like failure, rejection, success, the fear of, or even the imposter and the getting help. So it's kind of 5 right there. But if you are going to change, I promise you, do not only work. If you feel like there's something deeper, there's something, the anxiety is a consequence of something, dive deeper into this. You see, we have to get to that root cause. For when you let go of the root cause, you let go of every symptom. If you fix the bone, which is broken, you're going to eventually be out of pain because it's fixed itself. We don't want to put a plaster, which would say in England or in America, a band-aid on something that needs surgery. You see, the old way of doing things was to like fake it till you make it. Now that part of the old way, the fake it till you make it, is actually doing more damage than good. Because we think, well, if I fake it enough, I'm eventually going to be okay. I'm going to eventually learn it. But you will always feel like an imposter if that happens, and therefore more anxiety. It actually deepens the divide and conflict within you, because you're pushing yourself into more and more extreme situations or the same level of anxiety. Your unconscious mind develops these neuro associations, these conditions, that every time you think of that thing, the anxiety's there. Everything you think of that, doing that thing, anxiety's there because you feel anxiety. So just pushing yourself into that is not always going to work. Yeah, there's like the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and there are practical things we can do, but it's not for everyone. I want you to be aware of some of the consequences of faking it till you make it, because you'll always feel like an imposter. Because even if you make it, you'll question, I don't deserve to be here. I don't have the skill set. I don't have the validation externally or internally. I don't have the knowledge or the experience. We're going to start to question ourselves, which then deepens the internal conflict and can make things worse. Other things can be like listening to podcasts, which, I mean, they're all good. I mean, I run a podcast, for goodness. So I know why I do it and I really want it to help. But remember, not everything is custom to you. It's for everyone, like I said. So same thing with books. I got a book. I really liked my book and people said it's a really good book. Be Your Potential. But a book's not always going to get it all the time. The other old way is just kind of the biggest, hardest one, which is the sedation, the medication. And I'm not against pharmaceuticals as such. I know, like, if I break a bone, I might need some pain management. I know that sometimes we need to get out of a stress state to be able to get us into a more of a resourceful state. But if we carry on being sedated, and by the way, it's not even just pharmaceutical, it could be alcohol, it could be smoking, it could be food, it could be putting ourselves in bad relationships, like to kind of sedate ourselves. It could be watching Netflix, it could be social media. Like, there's so many things we can do to try to sedate ourselves from the anxiety that we feel. But the problem is that we bury it. In other words, we suppress it. But suppressing something doesn't make it go away. Suppressing can actually make it build stronger, because you're still feeling the feelings, you're pushing them down over and over and over, and it gets to a point where you might just explode. Not physically, but you will just feel that emotion in a very intense way because it's always there. So make sure you don't repress things. I like to welcome things to my life, even the bad things, because I know if I welcome it, I begin to start to develop a rapport with it. I get to understand it. I get to have a relationship with it. Because if you don't, if you repress, you're telling yourself, and more importantly, your unconscious mind, it does not matter. It's not important. Well, that unconscious mind of you is going to keep getting louder and louder and louder until you pay attention, because it's feeling like we're not being seen, heard, or felt. Or the unconscious mind is feeling like it's not being seen, heard, or felt. How do you feel when you've not felt seen, heard, and felt, or validated? So imagine sedation and repression is actually doing the same thing unconsciously. It's not feeling seen, heard, and felt, which makes things worse, which is the silent struggle of anxiety at an unconscious level, but we are consciously doing it. So therefore, we need to no longer repress it and welcome it, because if you start to acknowledge that it's real, it doesn't mean you're saying it's going to stay this way forever. I think it's very empowering to go, this is what I'm presently going through, and I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to repress it. I'm going to do something about it. That is where you start to negotiate. That's where you start to work with it. And of course, I'm not saying that's for everyone. You may want to be working with a practitioner to assist you through that. But from this observational, it makes sense not to repress. Because repression leads to worse emotions, and when we repress, we feel more physical symptoms and stress is not good for the body. So we need to start to awaken to no longer repress and actually look at it for what it is. And like I said, acknowledging it is not confirming that you'll always be that way. In fact, it's the first step to say, look, I'm not always going to be this way, because there's just what I'm presently going through. This is the present experience. That is not who I am, fundamentally. It is just what I'm presently expressing on a physiological level, on an emotional and psychological level, which is being run at the unconscious level. Because that's the other thing the old way is, try to consciously do all the work. But the problem is with that is the conscious mind, you consciously, I think you know what you want in a way, but you don't like the fear or the anxiety or the pain that you're going through. I think you're pretty perfect. I genuinely mean that. And in fact, I think your unconscious mind's pretty perfect intentionally. But if you try to consciously work on yourself, it's like working on the wrong thing. You need to work at the unconscious level. Because if you could let go of your anxiety because you were consciously running it, you'd flick your fingers and click your fingers even, and it'll disappear. But if you cannot do that consciously, it means it is at an unconscious level. So begin to take a deep dive into the unconscious. Understand that you got to meet the issue where it lives. And if you meet the issue where it lives, you start to make changes. You see, I almost feel like there's that part of you unconsciously that really wants help. I feel like it is doing its best. Now, for some people, they might even associate it metaphorically or symbolically as a younger self. Like maybe it was when I was 11 years old. I see that anxiety part of me being that age. That can be very, very common. And the reason why that can be common is because that was maybe, in that example, the time of the creation of it. Or at least the decision to feel that way or to believe in something about ourselves. So when we go about it that way, it's almost like your unconscious mind has made a decision in the past, trying to do it to the best of its ability, because it was only, in this example, say 9-10 years old, which didn't have all the resources. So it's just acting out what it's always done. So that's why it can feel like this inner part of us. But what I want us to do is kind of give that part the things that it always needed, to give it the learnings, give it the the growth, because that means we can integrate, we can come as one whole. Otherwise, it's just going to keep on staying separated, playing out the same strategies and expectations that is the only way. Now, the other thing is, we cannot just keep talking about the change. We just cannot keep talking about it, whether it be overtly, which is more rare, because it can be a very silent struggle. And even if it is overtly, we may not be doing too much about it ourselves, because sometimes it gives us reasons to stay the same. Like if everyone's talking about it and I'm talking about it, then we accept and actualize that that's maybe just who I am. But most of the time, we can just talk within ourselves. I'll work on it tomorrow. I'm too anxious right now. I'm too tired. I'm too stressful. But the too tired and the too stressful and not enough time is probably going to be because of the anxiety. You see, anxiety can create incredibly bad sleep. And sleep is so important to you. So important. And I don't mind if you've had 6 hours sleep, because 6 hours great sleep compared to 6 hours in a physiological stress state of anxiety is totally different. So I'm even caring less about the amount of hours. The quality of the freedom of it is going to be really important. But that, if we are anxious, we start to sleep probably less, or at least very stressed, we then get tired, and then we sedate ourselves. It becomes this like vicious circle of talking on the good game on the inside, that maybe I'll do it tomorrow, next week, and all those things, maybe next year. But it has to start today, or at the very least tomorrow. But don't make it always tomorrow. Like, we tend to sometimes go, well, next week I'll start working, or next month I'm going to be a millionaire, or next year this is going to happen. But you know what? There's always another year, there's always another week, because you're always moving forward in time. Like tomorrow will be the next day, which means the next day will be the next tomorrow. So we have that strange relationship with time. We have to cut that out and go, look, I'm going to go all in just getting this done. I'm going to find the new way, which I believe is the root of all anxiety. The root cause, not the consequence, not the symptom that we try to sedate or repress, but the root of it. Because that's lightning quick compared to working on every symptom. It's like if there's a weed in the soil and you just keep on plucking the leaf every single day, then nothing's going to happen. It's going to grow back. You have to take a deep dive into the root of the matter, get it out, and then plant something new there. Now, I'll get to the new thing in a moment, but the first thing is we need to get to that root cause. The next thing has to happen is for your unconscious mind, not conscious, although it'll be very beneficial, and it will be, but unconsciously to have an epiphany, to have an unconscious, subconscious realization, where that unconscious, subconscious realization is like, oh my goodness, this is not serving me anymore. And I'll tell you why. And I talked about it near the beginning. Your unconscious mind's trying to protect you. Now, for example, if I was to work with someone, say through my program, I want to make sure that the unconscious mind recognizes that what it's doing is not keeping you safe. Why? Because otherwise it's going to keep on doing it. One of the prime directors of the unconscious mind, there's many, like fight and flight, healing habits, storage of time temporally and atemporally. We've got things like regulation of the body, even from our physiological reactions to things. So, which some people like say telepathic, but all it is like, you know, like the gut instinct and so on. There's all unconscious stuff that is happening there. It runs our beliefs, it runs our values, it runs our memories, all of those things. So really good stuff on the whole, right? If I hurt myself, it's going to heal myself. If I'm going to have these habits for driving and walking and talking and all these things that I do. It does amazing things. But on one key one is protection, like the fight and flight response. The fight and flight response is wired into our neurology. So you're always going to be safe. The secondary responses are things like fear and anxiety. So it starts to run those. If I can get the unconscious mind to recognize and know, to have a realization and an epiphany that what it's doing isn't protecting you and actually not helping whatsoever. You see, staying in 40 years of pain of anxiety, or 20 years, or even a week of anxiety is not good. And it is missing out on opportunities to be financially abundant, to have the career of your desire or your business, or the relationship where you just know you're worthy of love and deserving of love, or where it be the health, or fill in the blank, just to know that you have self-validation. Those are far safer. And missing out on those opportunities and putting them off for decades is not going to help us. We need to get the unconscious mind to have the insight, the epiphany, the realization there's a safer way of being. You see, if I can get the unconscious mind to present that, or if I can present that to the unconscious mind, it has to biologically make the change. Because it's here to protect. If it realizes it's not, and I give another strategy of being safe, whilst, for example, knowing you're worthy, deserving, and good enough and capable, loving, learning from so-called failures and rejections and getting better each time, or enjoying having success, love getting help from people, all those things, conquering those main 5 fears, including the imposter syndrome. If I can get the unconscious mind to do that, it has to biologically make that switch. Because it's a new opportunity of being safe over an old way of being, which is not keeping you fully safe. Intentionally, it's trying to protect you, but it's not quite doing so. So once we do that, you've got to then implement that strategy. When you do that, you get unconscious congruency. So that means rather you consciously pulling in one direction, that I want the money, I want the abundance, I want the relationship, I want the health, I want this, the peace of mind and the wholeness, but your unconscious mind just putting on the brakes and running in the other direction because it fears failure, fears success, fears rejection, fears getting hurt, being found out, and all those things. You're only you're not moving anywhere. Even if you're 50% going in one direction, but your unconscious mind's going in another 50% in the opposite direction, you're in standstill. Even if there was a 25% resistance of the unconscious mind and only 75% forward of the conscious mind, you're still getting there slower. And that 25% will still trip you up more than you may think. But if we can get the unconscious mind in congruency, it means you are in alignment. And that's why I always go back to the Neville Goddard quote, which is, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and act upon it with conviction, and therefore you'll be in alignment. It goes on a little bit more, but just to summarize it, you'll have this congruency. You'll be 100% certain. You see, if we were flying from one place to another, 2 real far locations, if you're just 1 degree off course the whole time, you are missing that runway for probably tens or if not hundreds of miles. And think about that. If our unconscious mind is just a degree off target, we're not going to get there. So we want to get the whole unconscious and conscious mind totally congruent. And therefore the resistance disappears. The contrasting experience of the anxiety and the fear, that darkness that we feel on the inside disappears. You feel light, you enlighten the illusionary darkness, you feel congruent, you feel deeply aligned with who you're meant to be, who is worthy, deserving, who is lovable, who is capable. So you can be like a peaceful warrior of going boldly to your future and having all those wonderful, good and great things. But you have to deal with all those things that I've said. Moving away from the old way and getting into the new way. Assumption of responsibility. Realization that this silence that we go around anxiety, like living with it with silence because we think that's who we are. It is a state. It feels like who we are, so I'm not trying to say that it's not, right? I'm not trying to say it doesn't feel that way, because we feel it most of the time, like I said. But we don't focus on what we feel most of the time. We focus on what is creating it. What is behind the state of confidence? What is that belief or value or mindset? What is the state, the belief, or the identity of behind the anxiety? There's going to be so many things. It's going to be unique for everyone, but allow the anxiety to lead us to the cause. Maybe get help with that to get out your own way. But if you do exactly what I followed, or if you do exactly the following, well, it's not less of a following now, because it's all, if you follow all the prior things that I said, you will start to make the change you crave. You will get to where you want to be. It can take time, depending which route you go down, but you can make changes in weeks. Like, you may have this for decades, but you can let it go within weeks. You have that. I believe it's your birthright to live a life of love for self and for others, and what you do and who you are and how you produce. In other words, how you produce at work, how you show up in your relationships, whether it be for your children or your pets or your friends or parents and siblings, or for your clients or your colleagues and your boss and all those things. You get to choose that when you let go of that core issue, once you start to implement the new way. So with that knowledge, do whatever it takes to make that change. It is possible. If that's one thing I can promise, it is absolutely possible. And that means you are possible in making it a reality as well. So I hope you got some value, some understanding, some insight from that. Of course, for those who want to go on a journey with me and me helping you let that all go, you can apply to be in my program. You don't have to. In fact, I try to repel a lot of that because I want to make sure the right person is in there. Because I want to work with people who are ready, decisive, and invested. And if we're not any of those things, please do not, because we wouldn't be a good fit from the start. Look for other options, other people, or other things. But what you do is you go to josephclough.info/talk, you fill out an application form so we can kind of make sure you're a good fit. You show up on a one-to-one call with us. We get clear on what's going on, where you want to be. We take that doctor frame, figure out what has to be done, and then if we can solve it, we'll let you know, and we may invite you to the program. It is full of customization. It's around your needs, your unconscious desires, and therefore we can make the change. But like I said, you got to be really, really ready to make this change. If not, there are so many other people out there. Find someone who resonates with you. Find someone who's maybe overcome it, and therefore you know there's a proven model out there. There's so many opportunities. So don't suffer in silence. Put your hand out. Look in the mirror. All of those things. And make that change. I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it. Here we go. We owe it to that unconscious part of us. Maybe that was that young you. We owe it to that part of us, even just symbolically, to be the person that part of you needed. And therefore, when you be that person, you start to take action and do what has to be done. So with that, my friends, I look forward to speaking to you in a future episode. The next one will be a hypnosis session around anxiety, but still apply everything that I said today. Many thanks and goodbye. And welcome back. That was episode 867 done. It's a long stream. I didn't think we'd be going for this long. Oops. I'm knocking my drinking canisters together. Thank you, Dan. That's ever so kind of you. So kind. And thank you, my friend. And thank you, Sue, as well. And Mina as well. Thank you. I enjoyed that one. It's nice when you feel like you're tuning into stuff. So I really appreciate your very kind words. And thank you, Michelle, as well. And Med as well. Yeah, you tuned in late, but it doesn't matter. You're still here. And thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your kind feedback. I've learnt over years to always accept it. So I appreciate you all for saying such kind words. And thank you, Cheryl, as well, saying fantastic messages. Thank you, take care. Awesome, my friends. So I know we're over-ish, right? Oh, I'm moving away my buttons. I need those still. I was almost done with my stream. Usually I put this behind my keyboard. All the buttons I'm pressing. All the buttons. So I can't move it yet. I've got things to press. Thank you. Very, very kind. So I will be back here on Wednesday. And it'll be the hypnosis session accompanying this. And of course, like I said, it's always important to get more of a... Like, I love what I do in terms of my audios and my hypnosis sessions. So I always feel like I'm downplaying them, if that makes sense, when I'm saying, well, make sure you get the help too. But I do realize that I'm aware of my own work. I'm really happy with the quality. But I also know it's for everyone. Because I'm having everyone in mind who experiences all the things. So it's a bit hard to make it, you know, so specific. So that's what I meant by that. So please use the Wednesdays track though, because I think you're going to find out value. Thank you so much. Well, anxiety, imposter syndrome, all those kind of things I used to feel, so I can tune into how I felt. Like, I used to dread every day going to school. I've said that so many times, but oh, talking about dreams, just this weekend, not the weird dreams last night, I think it was Friday night, I had another dream of going back to school, being at school and going, that's okay, everything's going to turn out just fine. Don't have to worry about too much of how you're doing at school. You'll be just fine. You'll be okay. You'll be a hypnotherapist, or you're doing like podcasts and episodes. So I always like those little dreams I have. It's almost like still that, although I'm like some free of it, it's like that reassurance, going back in time almost. And thank you, Dan. That's so, so kind of you. So appreciate that. And thank you. I've done that so many times. Just, if you could let it go, you would, just like that. Thank you so much. I don't know if I put that one up there, but so kind. That is true. We'll build a nice community here as well, right? We will in a moment if it works. If not, just follow the link which happens. I'll post it in there as well in the chat. Thank you, Rosetta. Great to have you here as well. Thank you so much. Yeah, they are, right? I really like them though, because it's telling that younger me, like, that's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. And then that means like, oh yeah, I remember what I'm gonna do in the future. So kind of weird but wonderful. Rather than like, say if I had my issue, and didn't solve it, I'd probably keep reliving the past stuff. But it's like, having solved it, it's just that continued healing and learning, I think. I think just metaphorically, symbolically. But thank you so much. I know I've been over, so I appreciate you spending the time with me today. I've been speaking for 1 hour and 20 minutes now. slight lie. 100, an hour and 19 minutes. Now it's 120 minutes. 120. An hour and 20. Thank you for being here, Michelle. But if you make that resolution, you'll be going back to that younger you. You'll be like, hey, everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be just right. And you're most welcome, Luca. You have a good sleep. I know it's late for you or very early in the morning. Most welcome. Oh, did I add that up? I did already, didn't I? Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. So pleased it resonated with you. I know it does with me, so thank you. Oh dear. I know it's your 20 past midnight. Get to sleep, Tanya. Most welcome, Mina. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I love the Neville Goddard quote. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and act upon it with conviction, and then it goes on to more. It means you'll be aligned. In other words, assume the feeling of having achieved your goal, and then act upon it with your conviction, and therefore you'll be aligned congruently. A lot of people miss that. Some people just visualize and do not act. Some people just act and don't visualize, and by visualize, it's a whole auditory, visual, kinesthetic experience, even olfactory and gustatory. Yeah, he was a good. I liked his books. Oh, okay. We better close down the stream. Which is I've got to do anyway. I've got to do the editing of Friday's episode, which was a long one, and also this one before I slow down, plus other stuff. Yeah, let's all go away. Go away, relax, and enjoy our sleep, our evening or morning, depending where you are in the world. So, thank you so much. I will speak to you all on Friday. If all works well, you'll be shifted over to the sleep stream, which works 50% of the time, some of the time. And sometimes none of the time. Many thanks and goodbye.